Rain poured relentlessly over the quiet city streets that night. On a lonely park bench, under the flickering light of a broken street lamp, a young black woman held her baby close, whispering lullabies through trembling lips. Her clothes were soaked, her body shivered, but her eyes, those weary, soulful eyes, held something deeper than pain. They carried memories of dreams once bright, now drowned in despair. She wasn't always like this. Once, she worked in a mansion, her laughter echoing through golden halls. But tonight, she was homeless, cradling her 8-month-old white-skinned baby, unaware that the man who once employed her, a billionaire named Alexander Graves, was about to stumble upon her in the most unexpected moment of his life. The world hadn't been kind to Elena Brooks. She had grown up believing that hard work could fix anything, that if you gave enough love, the universe would somehow love you back. But life had other plans. When she came to the city, desperate for a job, she was hired as a maid in Alexander Graves' mansion, a man whose name was synonymous with power, elegance, and distance. Elena was quiet, graceful, and kind, qualities that often went unnoticed in a world that praised noise and ambition. She worked hard, sending every spare dollar to her mother in Georgia. The mansion felt cold, yet she found warmth in small things: sunlight through the kitchen window, the smell of coffee, the quiet hum of peace before the house awoke. But everything changed when she discovered she was pregnant. Her heart broke before it could even rejoice. The father, a man she had trusted, a man who had promised to help her, vanished when he learned the truth. She carried the baby alone, facing whispers, judgment, and fear. When she gave birth to a white baby, rumors spread like wildfire. People sneered, accused, and pointed fingers. Even the mansion where she had served so loyally turned its back on her. Alexander's head maid, a cold woman named Mrs. Linton, called her a disgrace and dismissed her on the spot. No notice, no severance, no compassion. Elena stood outside that mansion gate, holding her newborn wrapped in an old blanket as rain began to fall. For weeks, she searched for shelter, until one cruel night, there was none left. The park bench became her home, the stars her ceiling, and her baby, her only reason to keep breathing. She told herself it was temporary. She lied to herself that someone would help, that the man who once smiled at her in the mansion halls might remember her name. But no one came, and so she sang lullabies into the cold wind, convincing herself that love was still somewhere out there. It was early morning when Alexander Graves, billionaire and philanthropist, decided to walk through the city unguarded. His life, despite all its luxury, had felt hollow for months. His wife had passed away 2 years ago, leaving a void that neither money nor success could fill. Since then, he had stopped noticing people, stopped caring, stopped feeling. That morning, as he walked past the park, something made him stop. Under a dim light, he saw a woman sleeping on a bench, a baby pressed to her chest. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and yet, something about her felt familiar. He stepped closer, and his heart froze. "Elena," he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. She blinked, confused, ashamed. When she recognized him, her lips trembled. "Mr. Graves." He saw the baby, white-skinned, fragile, innocent. For a moment, he thought she had stolen the child. But then, he saw the way she held it. Gentle, protective, loving. Something inside him cracked open. "What happened to you?" he asked softly. Tears streamed down her cheeks before words could. "They said I brought shame, that I didn't belong. I tried, sir. I tried so hard." Alexander knelt beside her, his heart aching. The woman who had once polished his floors now lay shivering in the rain, still singing to her child. Without another word, he removed his coat and wrapped it around them both. "You're coming with me," he said. Back at his mansion, the staff whispered, shocked to see her again. But Alexander silenced them with one glance. He gave her food, a warm bed, and silence, a silence filled with gratitude, confusion, and healing. Days passed, and Alexander began to notice something rare in her. Despite all she'd endured, she smiled at his staff, thanked the cook, and cared for her baby with a tenderness that melted even the coldest hearts. Slowly, he began to talk to her, not as an employer, but as a human being. He learned of her pain, her loneliness, her dreams, and one evening, as they sat watching the sunset from the balcony, she said something that changed him forever. You can lose everything, Mr. Graves, she said softly. But if you keep kindness alive, you're never truly poor. Alexander looked at her, realizing she was teaching him what money never could, the courage to feel again. Months later, Elena stood once more in front of the mansion gates, but this time, not as a maid. As a manager of a new foundation, started by Alexander in her name, the Brooks Home for Women and Children, a safe place for mothers like her who had nowhere to go. Her baby, now crawling and laughing, became a symbol of new beginnings, pure and untouched by the cruelty of the past. Alexander often visited, helping her build the shelter. Together, they created something beautiful out of brokenness. But more than that, they healed each other. One evening, as they watched the children play in the garden, Alexander spoke quietly. You reminded me what it means to be human again, Elena. You gave me back my heart. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the golden sunset. And you reminded me that not all kindness is lost. The world began to notice. The story of the billionaire and the homeless made spread across the city. How compassion rebuilt two broken souls. People were moved, inspired, and reminded that grace could bloom even in the darkest storms. Elena no longer feared her past. She carried it as proof of her strength. Every tear, every night of cold hunger, had led her here, to a life built not on pity, but on purpose. As she kissed her baby goodnight, she whispered, We made it, little one. Love found us again. And outside, under the soft glow of the moon, it felt as if the world itself was finally at peace. Sparkling heart moral of the story. No matter how deep your pain or how far you fall, love and kindness can find you, even in the darkest corners of your life. Healing begins the moment you believe that your scars are not your shame, but your strength.